Hello and welcome to this week's video. Ginger fir is one of the hardest things to paint and most artists make the same mistake. They reach for the orange paint. But real ginger fir isn't orange at all. In this video I'm going to show you how I painted this cat using colour theory, light and brushwork to create that glowing effect, and why the colours that make it work might completely surprise you. Let's jump straight in. Values. First of all, let me show you my reference photo, which was sublime to say the least. However, as beautiful as the photo is, it does present me with a challenging painting. If I turn it into black and white, you'll see what I mean. I have a very limited value range. Temperature and colour mixing therefore becomes very important. The second problem I have is the pattern on the fur. I have a big shape, small shape issue that will be very easy to fall into. Remember, my small shapes live inside my big shapes. Establishing strong big shapes first is really important whilst suggesting my small shapes. If I overemphasize my small shapes, my cat will not read correctly, as the eye will be distracted by this pattern on the fur. This is a very easy mistake to make. I also print out my reference photo and place it beside my painting. To help me see my values, I squint at my photo. This helps me see the large blocks of value and also my big shapes. I then have another photo pinned on the wall about 1.5 meters from my workstation. This one helps me avoid looking too closely at the detail because I can't see it. I will also practice the sight size method. I will stand back and compare my painting and photo side by side. I can then see where I'm out. Temperature. Because my values are very similar, I'm going to need to use warm and cool colours to give me separation of those stripes and also create form. For a painting to be successful, it needs to have warm and cool colours in it. If I use too many warm colours, it will look muddy. If I use too many cool colours, it will look chalky. The mistake I can fall into here is to use too much orange. This won't work. I need to balance with cooler temperatures like blue and greens. My yellows and reds will be very important in this painting. If I show you the colour wheel, you'll see I have the option of 2 yellows and 2 reds. In terms of hierarchy, red is our warmest colour, blue is our coolest. As our colours move away from red to blue, they get cooler. As they move away from blue to red, they get warmer. That is very important to understand. Therefore, as my cat is primarily orange, orange-red, if I mix in the colour opposites of blue and green, this will give me a warm to cool transition. Orange and red are warm, blue and green are cool. However, I need to be very careful how I do this if I'm going for a realistic painting, because I may end up with a very strange coloured cat. I need to mix the right red and the right green together, and I also need to make sure I use the right yellows too. So understanding your palette and where your palette colours sit on the colour wheel is critical. Colour mixing. Let's have a look at my palette. I am using cadmium yellow light, yellow ochre light, transparent yellow oxide, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, transparent red oxide, ultramarine deep and titanium zinc white. I have also mixed a few other colours. These are a black red and a black green. When I mix these two together, they give me my rich black. A red purple, 3 oranges and 2 other greens. Understanding where your colours sit on the colour wheel is really important. I have 3 reds and 3 yellows. My cadmium red, my warmest, most saturated red would be this one. My transparent red oxide, while still warm, is darker and transparent. It's good for using in dark value colours. My alizarin crimson is my cool red and it sits here on the colour wheel. It is transparent. My cadmium yellow sits here on the colour wheel. It is my most saturated, coolest yellow. It is opaque. My yellow ochre light is more of an orange yellow. It is warmer, so sits here. It is semi-opaque, so will still affect the value of a dark mix. My transparent yellow oxide is a warm yellow, so would sit here. It is a transparent colour and good to use in dark mixes as it won't affect value. Why is it important? Think about your mixes and colours in terms of temperature. If I use this orange here, I am using two very warm colours in this mix. If I pair it with a green, these two greens are warmer simply because of the yellows I have used. This green is cooler because the yellow is further away from red. If I am trying to get a warm-cool combination, I would use either this green here because it contains my coolest yellow, or I would push this green closer to blue and use this one. Both give me different colours, so I need to know which one to use. The only way I can learn this is through repetition and practice. Choose the wrong combination and your colours will look more muddy than popping next to each other, which is what you want. As I look at my reference photo, I know this orange here is more muted than this orange here. I therefore know I have to add a blue or a green to neutralise it a little, and I know I will need to add less for this orange here. It is also very rare that you would use the two extreme colours as they are on the palette in high amounts on the painting. For the bulk of the painting, it is more likely that you will mix the colours into each other. So if you are seeing a red, it is very likely that you will mix a trace of green into it, just to neutralise the colour a little. But be aware, if you overdo it, you'll end up with mud. But this is very easy to fix. Just mix up some clean, more saturated colours and add them into your painting in various places. This will break up the neutral colours that you get if you mix the opposite colours too heavily. As I move into these areas, I have what appears to be an orange-yellow. However, if I just stick to a warm yellow-orange, I'm going to end up with a painting that looks like mud because I have so much orange and so much red. Remember, too many warm colours equals a muddy looking painting. So I really have to push this cooler and add my green plus white, followed by this green which I push heavier on the blue plus white. This gives me some very cool passages in these light areas that pop next to this red. Notice in these red areas I have pushed this mix with alizarin crimson and then neutralised it a little with this green. When I lay this orange next to this cooler red, see how it pops? This is because I have a cool red next to a warm orange. Colour mixing and seeing temperature is hard. People who are visual learners will see it more easily than those who aren't. If you are struggling, make up some colour charts to help you understand what colour makes what when mixed together. You can then refer back to them when you get stuck. Brushwork. Lastly, I want to speak briefly about brushwork because getting this blended effect can only be achieved with working Alla Prima. You will need all of your painting covered in enough paint to pull it around. The more medium you use, the more likely you are to lose control of your painting. A good way to keep your strokes soft and blended is to clean your brush in between strokes with something like linseed oil, but any oil medium will work. Then wipe your brush clean. This not only cleans your brush, but it makes the stiffer paint easier to work with and pull about without the need to add much medium. The brushes I like to use are these ones by Art Master, as I find them really expressive and I can really pull my edges about with them. They are great for destroying hard lines like I've done in this pattern area. I also like these Eclipse combers by Rosemary & Co. They are really good for creating that soft, fluffy fur effect and won't take paint off your canvas like the Art Master ones can if I'm not careful. And that's the secret to glowing ginger fur. It's not just orange. It's about balancing warm and cool colours, thinking in big and small shapes, and using brushwork to suggest texture and depth. Look closely, mix intentionally, and let your strokes do the work. That's what makes the fur come alive. If you would like to come and paint with me in oils, join my workshop on the 3rd of July. You'll find the link in the description below. There are also more details of lesson opportunities on my website, sarahhallidayart.com. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future painting tips. Thank you for watching and see you next week.